What does it look like? I mean, we can, of course, we can encourage people to look for themselves, but can you give a couple of salient examples of what it looks like?
Oh, sure. So you can encourage people to look at this stuff, but it's really difficult unless you already have knowledge of it. In other words, you have to know all about this stuff
That's true.
first.
Yes, that's
before
true.
Before you can decide
what to look for to become suspicious. What to look for and to realize that this article might not be the whole story here.
Well, so here's where it gets tricky. For example, if they're talking about scientific experiments, there's always a rebuttal. In parapsychology, there's always a rebuttal. If the rebuttal is not included, if they talk about the experiment and then the skepticism and then it stops, a rebuttal is missing every time. So one of the things that they will do is simply omit the rebuttal.
Okay.
Because I have knowledge of this organization and all of their echo chamber stuff, I can go through an article and find out, okay, this CSI fellow, CSI fellow, CSI fellow, CSI fellow, down in the citations, you can see that they're citing all these CSI fellows, Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, CSI.
Yeah.
So
they're citing themselves.
They're citing themselves, yeah. And when you look at the articles they're citing, you'll see Skeptical Inquirer, the Skeptics Dictionary, the Quack Watch, and they'll all these things that are owned by skeptics. They're sites that are owned by skeptics that they're using as sourcing for Wikipedia. So I can go down there and just start picking them out because they're fairly obvious to me. And then when you start seeing those in the article, you know that it's biased, that they've come along in that article and they've put their own people in there. And so, for example, in Rupert Sheldrake's article, it's basically an advertisement for the skeptic.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have anything to do with his accomplishments. I mean, you can kind of get there if you know what he's already done, but you're better off going to his own website.
Yeah. If you know what the truth is about these people, it's a bit tragicomical, but it's really very sad. I mean, because so many people don't know that much about Rupert Sheldrake or Dean Radin that you and I do, and they're just at a loss here. How could they know? How should they know that these are all?
No, they can't.
They can't.
You can't know these things without having this background knowledge. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that I do is I write about, what I'm finding in Wikipedia, in order to educate the public that, hey, this isn't right. This is not working the way it should. And you need to be really careful when you look at these topics on Wikipedia, because they get slowly turned into these skeptical advertisements. And what they're selling is materialist atheism. You're literally getting somebody's quasi-religion in Wikipedia. I don't really want that.
No. Yeah, people should know about these things. And of course, it's not an official encyclopedia, but it's become so big now that it's being used by everybody, I guess. I mean, even politicians, probably, they wouldn't admit it in a speech or anything like that, but I'm sure they find information on Wikipedia. Everybody does that.
Well, what I've found is that I can kind of tell, when I'm reading an article, whether they got the information from Wikipedia, because there are some things that turn up there that you really aren't going to find anyplace else.
Yeah.
For example, the use of pseudoscience and parapsychology pretty much died in 2018 when Etzel Cardenia publishes a paper in the American Psychologist outlining the evidence for psychic ability.
I know about that. I know about that study because he was on the show as well a year ago or so.
Yeah. So that basically ended any discussion about that. And if you go into the scientific community and you look for parapsychology, you don't see references to it as a pseudoscience from a scientific perspective. They've just taken that part out now. It doesn't really show up that way. There's question about whether psychic ability is real, but they're not really questioning whether actual science is being done on it.
Yeah. So Wikipedia there's inertia in the Wikipedia world.
Massive inertia.
Yes, massive inertia.
Yeah. Well, the problem for them is if they acknowledge that parapsychology is a real science, then they have to acknowledge that all of these experiments are real. And they can't post, and if they can't, so at that point, they cannot paste pseudoscience and fringe labels all over everything. And if they can't do that, then they have no justification for being super biased.
That's true.
So their whole house of cards is dependent on them labeling these as pseudoscience and fringe, which is something no other encyclopedia does. So, for example, if you compare parapsychology on Wikipedia to Encyclopedia Britannica, they're entirely different. These two explanations are completely different. One is horribly biased and opinionated, and the other one just kind of tells you what it is.
Hello, my friends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to hit that like button and share the video with your friends. Please support the channel if you can. I appreciate all the support. You can become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or you can make a one-off donation via PayPal if you wish. All the links are in the description box below. Thank you.